What's up, everybody? Monday morning, or I should say Tuesday morning, right? We already have Monday, so now we're on Tuesday. And the Eagles are all over the national media. Once again, the Eagles are all over the national media. And listen, it's not going away, and it's getting worse, especially when you look at the press conference yesterday from Doug Pederson. So many takeaways from that press conference. I mean, I don't even know where to begin, to be honest with you. It has been a trying day trying to decipher exactly what has been going on with the Philadelphia Eagles. And then you add into the press conference that just to me was just boggles my mind sometimes. I don't know where I don't know where Doug Peterson's mind is at, right? But one thing is for sure, Doug Peterson is lost right now, and he doesn't have the answers when we talk about Carson Wentz. And I think that is the biggest thing we can take away from all of this is that there are no answers for his play and his regression. It's something that is, I'll tell you what, I went back and I looked at some film, and Brian Baldinger obviously does a tremendous job breaking down all the game film of the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'll tell you what, it's very concerning when you look at some of the missed throws that Carson has missed, some of the missed plays that he's left on the field. And one thing for sure, he almost looks like he's playing scared. I hate to say it, but he does. He looks like he's afraid to take that hit again, which is extremely odd, right? Because he didn't really show that last year, and now all of a sudden he shows it this year. So it's something that we definitely have to talk about. And another thing I want to say is I want to bring this to the forefront, okay? And, when does it become time where, it's Carson versus Doug? When does Doug go against Carson in the sense that Doug is trying to save his job? When does that happen? Because I think, obviously this is only week 2, and I don't want to get crazy here. But what I do want to say is it's very concerning to see that regression going forward. There's just nothing else I can say about it. It's real. It's legitimate. I mean, there is plays that will be broken down where, he's completely missed the coverages. We talked yesterday about no audibles. And if you watched last night, if you watched that game with Oakland and New Orleans, you watch, and again, I'm a John Gruden guy. I love John Gruden. I love what he's done. You heard the audibles on the line, the kill from Derek Carr. You've seen him taking advantage of some of those coverages. That's what we haven't seen from Carson. So, hearing Doug yesterday in the press conference, when they specifically asked him, what do you think? And he says, it is. When he asked about the regret, he didn't say Carson wasn't regressing. He did not. And that's the thing. People have to realize exactly what happened there. I mean, he was specifically asked about the struggles. Okay? He said, Doug Peterson, when asked why Carson Wentz is regressing in year 5, his response, it's a good question. Yes, it is. So that, to me, is one of the most concerning things when we talk about it, right? One of the most concerning things is that your head coach is basically, he's not coming out. And, he's always going to say Carson's a hard worker, but he is lost for answers right now. He really is. Andre checking in. Carr was reading the defense and was trusted to make the right play. Absolutely. Andre, what is up? Good morning. As always, thanks for joining in. And, you're basically part of the Heat Ratio family anyway. The A-bomb, man. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you look at it, and John Gruden – He instilled confidence in Derek Carr. And it took John a year to get that confidence. But, you've seen Derek Carr taking what the defense gave him. That was one thing that was happening. And that's one thing that people aren't talking enough about. They're not. When Carson has been missing receivers left and right, and the coaching staff has taken some of that play calling ability away from Carson, which is another concerning point. Listen, I said this yesterday, and the more I think about it, the more I believe it, that I really think that Jalen Hurts was picked for a reason. And I'm not a Jalen Hurts guy, but maybe he was picked for a reason. Maybe, it was a what if, right? Andre, I'm realizing that Carson isn't at the mastery level of the game. We needed to be great, not good. Listen, exactly. And great is what we've seen, right? That's the thing. We've seen the product. We have seen the finished product of Carson Wentz in the sense of that greatness, right? He was leading the MVP voting up until he tore his ACL. He was leading that team up into championship aspirations. Last year, he took a team that had nobody to throw to, and he excelled them into a winning record towards the end of the year, so into the playoffs. So that's something that we did not see right now. That's something that has gone away, and I'm not sure why, right? I'm not sure why. So something is not right, and something needs to change. And I tell you, he's getting eaten alive by the Philadelphia media. It's starting to concern me. It really is, because once you go down this kind of road, it's very hard to turn back. Now, I think Carson is very strong. He's a very faithful kind of guy. So usually when you're faithful and you have a strong, spiritual sense about you, you will be able to get to that next step, overcome those obstacles, so to speak. But when your head coach is standing in front of an audience and basically saying he has no idea what's going on, that's a problem. It's a problem. And we've seen this happen with Donovan, but we've seen this happen with Donovan later in his career. Donovan was already established, right? Donovan was already that number one quarterback. He was already great. Say what you want, Donovan was great. And yes, Donovan, he had his big turd throws, right? We all know that. His worm burners. I get it. But at the end of the day, Donovan did much more, right? He did much more with less. Right, absolutely. What's up, Mark? Checking in. Doug started to hold Carson accountable publicly a little last year. Gloves off now. That's a great point. He started last year. He continued this year. Listen, he is not, and this is why I asked a question, right? This is why I asked a question. When does Doug go into, I'm saving my job? When does that happen, right? When does that happen? When listen, I'll be honest with you, man. We've seen this before play out in the NFL. Maybe not to, Carson Wentz, because he is young and he's still in his prime, but we've seen this play out so many times. Listen, it's played out in Baltimore, right? And I get it. Joe Flacco was at the end of his career, and they decided to finally put Lamar Jackson in. But I'll tell you what, man. Listen, this has got the same kind of vibe to me. This has the same kind of vibe when we talk about a younger quarterback, a guy that is very athletic and could be a game changer. I know nothing about Jalen Hurts from a statistical standpoint in the NFL. None of us do, because he hasn't taken a snap yet and he's only been a decoy. But when you watch, when you watch Justin Herbert, okay, when you watch Josh Allen, when you watch Kyler Murray, okay, when you watch these guys, you say, you know what? These guys are young, and I'll tell you what, this Cincinnati game coming up, do not take this game lightly, Philadelphia. Do not take it lightly at all. Joe Burrow is on a mission, and our secondary right now is at a point where even Darius Slay was a little disappointing last week, but besides that, the rest of those guys couldn't cover me, man, and that's not saying much. I am not a fast guy anymore. I'm old. I'm fat. It is what it is. I'm not going to lie. So, that is very concerning as well. And I'll tell you what, if we go into a 6-game slide here of like a 2-4, I'll tell you, it is going to be interesting. It is. And I think you could start to see Jalen Hurts come in and start taking meaningful snaps if Carson continues to keep going down this path. Mark checks in, defense is trash. You got to step on Higbee. You know what's funny, Mark? It's crazy. It's a great point because, how come when guys like yourself and myself can see that, and guys like Andre can see that, when we talked about Tyler Higbee all week. We talked about the lack of skill at the linebacker position. We've talked about how they are not good in coverage, and McVay being a smart offensive wizard. Sorry, Mark. But seriously, and all kidding aside, he is tremendous calling plays, and he knew exactly where to attack, and Jared Goff knew exactly where to attack. Two things we didn't see from the Philadelphia Eagles. So, and Jim Schwartz didn't step up. He didn't – listen, Jim Schwartz has to – after the first touchdown, you have to adjust somehow. Now, I understand it takes players in order to run your system, but you also have to take those players and you have to rally around your own system right now because these players aren't changing. The worst thing you're going to do is cut players, not add, and you're going to be adding practice squad players, which aren't really going to do anything, right? So you have to work with what you have. And Jim Schwartz, for all intents and purposes, you have a big voice when it comes to the defense. You have a big voice when it comes to personnel. So if you aren't happy with this personnel, you need to step up and say something. And now you can't say that you're not happy because you had every opportunity to change this in the offseason and you decided not to. So I don't want to hear any excuses. I also do not want to hear the excuses. And I'm so glad. Listen, say what you want. You'll never hear Tony Jigsaw Cotillo bash another journalist. I just don't do it. They are very credible sources. They work their ass off to get to where they are, and I'll never do it. That's why I got to give respect to Les Bowen. Les Bowen yesterday in the press conference asked specifically what we all want to know. He heard Doug Pederson use the excuse of, listen, they lost 2.5 weeks of reps. Carson didn't have the reps in the offseason. He couldn't adjust the timing, right? He made every excuse in the book, and Les came right back and said, I have a question, Doug. That was the same scenario for everybody, but we're still seeing new players, free agents, rookies, new quarterbacks step in, especially look at Justin Herbert. He is a product, again, to combat that statement because he come in and he played well. And he didn't have the all season either. So Doug kind of really, he couldn't say much after that. So I respect Les for saying that because a lot of people in the Philadelphia media do not punk Doug for some reason. I don't know why. Big Rube was trying to prod him a little bit, and Les took that over. So Andre checks in, 2-4 will start Hurts. I completely agree. 2-4 will start Hurts. That's going to happen. Molly checks in, well, apparently they knew exactly what the Rams were bringing, yet the defense still couldn't stop anything. I just don't understand. It's a great point. When you prepare all week, you knew it was coming, and you still could not stop it, which is very, very interesting. Again, that falls on coaching. We talked about that yesterday. I'm telling you, Carson's issue is not on the field. It's in his head. The more we lose, the worse he'll become. The bust-out game will get him back on track. Doug and Carson got to get out of their own way. You know what, Andre? I couldn't agree more. I really think this is more of a mental thing that's affecting the physical ability of Carson Wentz. We all know he has the attributes. We all know he has the ability. We already get that, right? We know that for sure. And we've talked about the mental standpoint, the psyche of players when this happens. This is exactly what we talk about when we look at, who is it? Is it the player? Is it the system? But Doug and Carson definitely have to get out of their own way. I think, they're on two different streets. They really are, and they need to come back and merge. And, before they were running parallel. Now they're intersecting. And, I hate to use a geometry reference, but it's the truth. I mean, right now they're intersecting logic. They're intersecting game time. Everything that they do right now is intersecting one another, and they need to get back on the same page. They really do, because this offense is going down the tubes right now. It really is, and I understand that we don't have the playmakers that we act. I understand we don't have the playmakers that we really want, but what I will say is there was one specific play. I watched DeSean Jackson. It was set up. It was a good play call. I have to give Doug credit. It was a really good play call. Okay, and it was on a 3rd and 1. They did get the first down, but I'll tell you what, man, the throw from Carson was terrible. He hopped. It was off his back foot. It was unbalanced, and you know why? Because there was 2 guys coming at him, and those 2 guys were still 4 yards away. He was very, very trigger happy, and that's what's going on. And by the way, what happened was that ball was thrown to the complete opposite side and what made DeSean Jackson fall, and the blocking was set up in front of him, and he was going to go at least 30, 40 yards. So these are the kind of things that could pop that aren't popping because Carson is just not making the throws. It's just not happening. Andre Jackson, we got split over the years with an on-field leader. Now we don't have it either side of the ball. It's showing. I agree. Molly and Andre having a little love fest in the comments area, which is great. Listen, a lot of love going on between Molly and Andre in the comment section. It's all about the heat ratio love. I get it. I really, really like it. Brian, can we compare Doug's play calling and Gruden's last night? For example, Gruden poked around early and figured out what would and would not work. Once they figured out what did, they attacked constantly with Jacobs and Waller, especially Waller. Over and over, they went right at Malcolm Jenkins. Waller, 12 catches, 103 yards, and a touchdown. Sometimes it's not hard, just doing what works. Listen, Brian, 100% agree. I watched that game from start to finish, right? I watched that, and let me just preface this by saying that you're playing right in to my favorite zone here because I absolutely love John Gruden. I wanted John Gruden as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. All the people that tell me, what did John ever – I don't care what anybody says. John Gruden, to me, is the man. I love Grudog. I love his energy. I love his motivational skills, and I love his offensive mind. Everything he does has purpose, which is great. And what you said is exactly right. They prodded and prodded away a little, right? Because Dennis Allen is a highly respected defensive coordinator over there in New Orleans. That's a 6th ranked NFL defense that we expected to come show up, right? We expected to come show up. And what he did without his best player, right? Let's remember that. Without, and what I mean by that is, even though Josh Jacobs, was on the field, he wasn't the best player last night. The best player on the field was Darren Waller. So he understood who his best player was. That's what he did. He prodded that defense, and he understood that even though Malcolm Jenkins is a great cover corner, he gave Malcolm every opportunity to prove him wrong, and he couldn't. So what he did in the second half is he hit them right in the mouth with Darren Waller, hit them right in the mouth with a solid running game, and he stuck to the game plan. He did something, Brian, which I agree that Doug can't do. He adjusted. He adjusted in game, something Doug can't do. Doug would have continued to call the same game plan, right? He would have continued to call the same game plan. When Derek Carr missed that pass to Henry Ruggs, who was open, by the way, right? He was open. And that's exactly the kind of throw that Carson's missing right now. What did Gruden do? He said, you know what? Even though that was open, it's not going to work. I know we have that opportunity, but I want to go inside more. I want to go out and stress this defense more and make them cover Darren Waller. Make them understand what's going. And I'll tell you what, that play, even though I hated it that it went to Engel because obviously I'm a Josh Jacobs fantasy owner, it was tremendous. You use Darren Waller. This is the first touchdown I'm talking about. Grudog uses Darren Waller as the ultimate decoy. He had the entire defense running to Darren Waller. That's how big of a part of the game Darren was last night. And this was still in the first quarter. And the whole defense shifted, uses a little play action, and he sneaks the fullback out there, and he scores in the red zone. Tremendous. And again, I tweeted it out. Another thing I love is watching how hyped Grudog was at the end with Mike Mayock. Mike Mayock, another guy with Philly ties. Who, tremendous general manager, he was the one guy I watched that, I wasn't a Mel Kiper guy. I was a big Mike Mayock guy. Always watch him on NFL Network, seeing what he's doing with that mental ability and parlaying that into the management of the NFL, where people said you really couldn't cohese the two. I'll tell you what, he is combining them so well right now. He's making a mockery out of everybody, and you can tell those two guys, they want to win. And I've said this before, not to get on this love fest with Gruden, but I had to because I really, really enjoy John Gruden, is because I watched John Gruden in the virtual draft when he drafted Henry Ruggs. And I've said this before, when John Gruden drafted Henry Ruggs, not only did he draft the player he wanted, he already had offensive plays in his mind on way he was going to use Henry Ruggs. That's how excited he was. He was hugging his wife. He was hugging his kids. This is a man who wants to win. This is a guy who loves the game. Vegas got them a damn head coach, man. They got them a tremendous head coach, a tremendous general manager, and I'll tell you what, they are building something special out there, and that is how you motivate players. Okay, that's how I should say you motivate players. That's how you motivate men, and that's the biggest issue. Men are a hard breed to motivate. Let's be honest. You have billionaire players, basically. Not millionaires. Some of them are billionaires because that's what they're going to be after their investments. Okay, it's very hard to motivate guys like that on a continual basis. And John Gruden gets it. He understands it. Listen, he comes off the Andy Reid tree. Now, I understand that Doug Pederson came off that Andy Reid tree as well, but Doug Pederson just, to me, is too lax and too calm, cool, and collective. I'm a Grudol guy. I would love Grudol right here. Unfortunately, we just don't happen. Andre checks and say, we witnessed a coaching chess match and Gruden won. Absolutely. Two tremendous guys. Okay, this is not knocking Sean Payton, but I'll tell you what, and my man Mark Drumheller said it best. You know, if you're not listening to him on The Gambler and on his live stream, Mark the Wizard, you got to check him out. That is my man. And he was talking specifically about, does Drew Brees still have it? Do they understand there is a natural regression in Drew Brees? And I really think that was, part of the issue last night. Number one, you don't have your best offensive weapon in Michael Thomas. And on top of that, you're trying to devise a game plan under a quarterback who's just not the same guy. So I think that's happening, and we're seeing that, which is why Alvin Kamara is going to have a tremendous year. He's already showing he's going to be not only overused, but he's going to be overproductive, if that even makes sense, especially from a fantasy standpoint. Molly says she's a big Gruden fan. Absolutely, Molly. That's why we get along so well. Andre checks in. That's part of the game I love, is watching two good coaches compete with the players they have. The mutual respect is tremendous. I do it from a youth sports standpoint. I love it when I coach against another coach on the other sideline and we're going neck and neck, throwing haymakers at each other. At the end of the day, it is tremendous to be able to say, hey, listen, you know what? You were the better guy, right? We tip our hat and we move on, which was great. But I'll tell you what, the NFL, number one, obviously we lose Isaac Salamalu. We'll see how long we lose him for. But what about Lane Johnson? Let's talk about Lane Johnson, because I want to get to some other NFL talk as well. But what about Lane? Lane Johnson comes back not even 100% and was the number 2 graded right tackle in all football in week 2 and didn't even let up a sack. Listen, I'll tell you what, he was absolutely tremendous in that game. He was. And that's the things that I take away from this game. Certain things, this is why I say I lean more on Carson a little bit, because Carson had time in that game. Carson was not sacked at all in that game. Not once. He wasn't sacked. But if you look at his completion percentage, which was under 62, I think, which is very bad, you have to say to yourself, what is going on here? Right? What is going on? Why? Why is he jumping the gun? Why is he very skittish? I'll tell you, man, it's a problem. It's an absolute problem. So that's why I keep leaning on the Carson issue. Now, can you imagine, you look around the landscape, okay, and you look at Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. You look at Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. You look at Deshaun Watson in Houston. You look at Kyler Murray. You mean to tell me that, that Doug Pederson wasn't thinking about how Jalen Hurts would look as a quarterback in this system? The more I think about it, the more I see the Carson regression, I'm starting to think that was planned, and it wasn't planned as being a gadget guy. Because I'll tell you what, I talked about yesterday the Miami Dolphins, being overly excited watching what Kyler Murray is able to do and being able to translate to that kind of style of offense for Miami. I'll tell you what, in the back of Doug's mind, he has to start thinking about, what? And I'm not saying I would think about it. Listen, what I mean is this is something that indirectly he is going to have to, battle, because ultimately his job is going to be on the line. So he's going to have to say to himself, listen, if I throw Jalen Hurts out there and give this offense a jump start, I'll tell you what, here's the thing. Can we all agree on this? If Jalen Hurts steps onto the field for the Philadelphia Eagles this year, and he lights it up, the Carson Wentz era will be over. There's no coming back. And I'll say this, there's no coming back. You know why? It's up here. right? It's up here. There's no way in hell that Carson Wentz will be able to deal with this for a third time. And I'll tell you what, if Carson goes down with injury or Carson gets benched, so for all you people that are saying you want to see Carson get benched right now, that's fine, but be prepared, because if he gets benched and they put in Jalen Hurts the quarterback, I'm telling you right now, that is going to be a controversy, right? Because Carson Wentz will never get back into the game. He will never get back onto the field. I'm telling you that right now. Because I'm telling you that there's two books, okay? There's a Carson Wentz playbook right now, and there is a playbook right now for Jalen Hurts that is being developed 100%. And that playbook that's being developed is getting closer and closer week in and week out, especially if this team goes 0-3, especially if this team goes 2-4, especially if this team goes 2-5. And that's the thing. You know, we're not talking about the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes here, okay? We're not talking about that. We're talking about Carson Wentz, who has, he has, unfortunately, a reputation for not only not finishing the season, but for the sense that, he is showing regression. And you have a guy that you drafted that, unfortunately, he didn't get drafted in the second round to be a gadget guy. He got drafted to play. Eric checks in. Carson Wentz is this is a comment right here. Carson Wentz is starting to remind me of Blake Bortles. Wow, Eric, let me tell you something. That is eerily concerning. It is. I'm telling you, man. Listen, 100%. That's bad. I'm getting choked up even think about it, man. If he is Blake Bortles, we are in some deep trouble, man. We are in some deep trouble. Crazy. Brian said, what if Wentz gets benched and Hurts looks no better? Lots of folks are acting like he's Russell Wilson already. Right. And that's the thing. But you know what, Brian? That's interesting. That is honestly, I don't know what scenario is better, right? If Hurts comes in, no matter what, Hurts never goes back to the bench. Even if he looks no better, he's not going back to the bench. And I will tell you one thing. One thing is for sure. Hurts will look better. I'm guaranteeing you that right now. And for the simple fact that he is going to be more mobile, and he is just going to take off. He's just going to take off and make the game exciting. That's what's going to happen. And people are going to fall in love with that. I'm telling you. People are going to fall in love with that. You remember, now I understand that Michael Vick was Michael Vick, but when Michael Vick came in and he showed that explosive ability, everybody jumped all over Michael Vick, right? They were right on that bandwagon. And I think that's what's going to happen to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is just sitting back and he's waiting for his time. I don't know what kind of accurate quarterback he's ever going to be. But to your point, acting like he's Russell Wilson already, he's certainly not Russell Wilson. We all know that. But I'll tell you what, this is a season. You're still a coach. If you listen to the press conference, what did Doug say? One of the most, I won't say concerning, but one of the most telling statements that Doug said yesterday on the mic was, I was hired to win championships. I was hired by Jeffrey Lurie and the Philadelphia Eagles organization to win football games and win by any means necessary. So you know what that's setting it up for. That's setting up for, guess what? If we're 2-4, like Andre says, and I need to preserve some wins and I need to preserve a season, I'm doing anything I can, anything necessary to make that happen. And if that means starting Jalen Hurts, that's exactly what that means. Please, I'm telling you right now, I have a bad feeling about this. I do. I really do. Andre says the check cleared already. The front office doesn't want to see the benching to happen. You're right. I get it. The check cleared already. I completely understand. But they also do. Listen. Where there's a will, there's a way, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. I'll tell you what. And again, I'm not going to bring this up, and I'm not comparing it. But remember what Mike Vrabel did last year in Tennessee. And I understand that Ryan Tannehill. I should say Jalen Hurts is not Ryan Tannehill, but nobody thought. And I get that Marcus wasn't paid, but nobody thought that Marcus Mariota would get benched. Nobody thought he would get benched in favor of a guy like Ryan Tannehill, and he did. And what happened? It jump-started the team, and look where they ended up. So, listen, don't think that for 1 second that Doug is not thinking about this. Do I agree with it? I'm still a Carson guy. Listen, guys, I am. I'm still a Carson guy. And for everybody watching, get into the comment section. Let me know you're there. I watched the ticker up here, and we've had over 100, 200 people watching already this morning on all different formats. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. We are on Periscope. We are on Twitch. We are on Sportscaster. We are all over right now. Everybody's getting in. Not all the comments can be seen. So if you're listening, you're watching, get your comment in. Tell me what you're thinking. NFL Week 2, looking ahead to Week 3. What do you think the Eagles situation? Get the conversation rolling. Get some more Eric, Brian, Molly, Andre. As always, I really appreciate it. Keep it going. We talk about Jalen Hurts is the presence. Hurts has that pressure clock in his head, so whether he runs or he gets rid of the ball. Andre, I completely understand what you're saying there, and that's my point. Hurts is going to have that elusiveness right now that's escaping Carson Wentz. Now, again, I brought this up. Was the coaching staff trying to preserve Carson Wentz? Or are they trying to say maybe he shouldn't run? I don't know, but what I know right now is he doesn't look the same. And I know if Jalen Hurts comes in, he's going to be running because that's one of his biggest abilities. And that's why Kyler Murray is becoming such an unstoppable force in Arizona. On top of, he is mastering the Cliff Kingsbury system. So Jalen Hurts will not come in and instantly be Kyler Murray because you see what Kyler Murray did last year. He had some really good games. He had some really bad games. So this is a second year for him in the offense to understand the playbook, to master it. So I really think that you're going to start to see Jalen Hurts get behind center. And I bet you this, Jalen Hurts will take a couple snaps this week at quarterback in that Bengals game. Whether it's because we're up by a lot, whether it's because we're down by a lot, or whether it's designed. They're going to have a couple design plays for Jalen Hurts this week. And I'm telling you, it's going to be the beginning. And again, I think that Doug knows this, and Doug is ready for it. I just don't think Carson is, because to go back up to what Brian said and Andrea said and Molly's agree with, that, mentally, right now Carson Wentz is all. So, and for everybody on Twitter right now saying that, they're only, here we go again talking Eagles. Well, guess what? This is what we have to talk about right now. So I hate the statement when people get on Twitter and they're Twitter trolls. I see it all the time. And they sit there like, here we go again, talking Eagles. Here we go again. So, well, guess what? We talk about the topics that we're passionate about. We talk about the topics that hit. Say what you want, but this is a topic that needs to be talked about. I don't care what anybody says. It is a topic, and everybody wants to get their opinion out, and that's what I'm doing. So if you have a problem with that, do me a favor. Swipe left, swipe right, swipe up, whatever the hell your iOS says, and you don't have to listen. It's fine. I'm good with that. Trust me. I am very good with myself right now. Hurts may play a role that the Saints use with Taysom Hill. I agree. They have slowly interjected, Taysom Hill into the plays. They have slowly gotten into the mindset that, Drew Brees, if he shows that this decline is real, because he is declining. Drew Brees is declining in New Orleans right in front of our very eyes. That's what he's doing. So at the end of the day, they're setting up Taysom Hill to be the next guy. Whether it's now or later, I'll tell you what, Sean Payton is not afraid to pull the trigger. Trust me, he is not afraid to pull the trigger. I just hate when we have a multi-skilled player on the sidelines because of his position. You play football, go play. That's a good point. Multi-skilled player. He can do a lot. You've seen, listen, he was only in the game a couple times. He ran a little motion, and he already garnered the attention of the defensive side of the ball. So it just shows what he can do. And that play that we talked about last night in the Oakland game, or I said Oakland again, I'm sorry, in the Vegas game that John Gruden put Darren Waller into the motion, put Josh Jacobs into motion. Just imagine if you threw Jalen Hurts in there and he went into motion, and you had Zach Ertz into motion, and you had Miles Sanders into motion, and then you threw a second running back in there like a Boston Scott, or maybe Dallas Goedert's on the other side and goes play action. Listen, the opportunities are endless. They are, if Jalen Hurts is on the field. So I'm changing up a little bit, people. I am. I really am. And I'm starting, as much as I hate the Jalen Hurts pick, I'm starting to understand it a little more. I'm being honest with you. I really did. I think we really need it more, especially at the linebacker position. But if this Carson Wentz regression is real and continues to veer its ugly head, I'm telling you, I'm kind of understanding the Jalen Hurts pick. I am. And I'll tell you what, mark my words, that Jalen Hurts pick, if Carson Wentz continues to regress, if Carson Wentz continues to show that he may not be the guy we thought he was, and if he does get benched and Jalen Hurts comes in and wins a few games, that saves Howie Roseman's job. That saves Doug Pederson's job. I'm telling you right now, that would save both of their jobs right there. Okay? And then especially if Jalen Reagor continues to develop and continues to play, it's going to save their jobs. It is. It's instantaneous. Instantaneous. Throw them right now, they're in the middle of the ocean and they have no paddles. They're in a lifeboat. That's what they are. You got Howie and you got Doug, right? Sitting in the middle, just got jumped off the Titanic and they have no paddles. But I'll tell you what, Jalen Hurts is the one that can give him that paddle. It is what it is. Carson Wentz is the one to give him the paddle. One of those two guys, whether Carson continues to regress and Jalen Hurts comes in, or Carson turns it around and shows that he is the guy we think that he is. Either way, it's the only way that these two guys get their jobs saved. If neither of them work, they're both gone, in my opinion. Because to Brian's comment earlier, what if Jalen Hurts comes in and he looks no better than Carson Wentz? It's hard. You can't completely say that the abbreviated offseason doesn't have any kind of dictate. It doesn't dictate what the skills will be on the field, because I've said this before when we talk about fantasy and NFL, that rookies are going to have the hardest time trying to translate the game and trying to understand the playbook because they didn't get the reps. But when I don't think that for players that have already been around and players that have already been in the system, that doesn't matter. So I will give it to rookies. I will, but then when you got a guy like Justin Herbert that goes in, never taking an NFL snap, all of a sudden finds out 5 minutes before the game time, he's playing, goes in there and basically runs the offense, 300-plus yards, throws a touchdown, looks pretty good. I'll tell you what, man, it makes your mindset a little different. He can run a Philly. That plays 6 to 8 different variations of it. 100%. 100%. Wildcat, Philly. There's so many different variations of what here's what I picture, okay? What play, before we get out of here, what play worked the best for Nick Foles? What was Nick Foles the master of, in that Super Bowl year, right? What was he the master of? The RPO, right? The run play option, or our run pass option. That's exactly what he mastered. What does Cam Newton master? The run pass option. What is Kyler Murray mastering right now? The run play option. What is Jalen Hurts going to have to master? The run pass option. So what I'm saying right now is Jalen Hurts, if he could actually do the run pass option, the RPO, I'll tell you what, man, he could be exciting. He really could. You can teach throwing and targets. You can't teach speed and running. Prescott, Jackson, Murray, Watson. Hurts pick was what the NFL is turning into the future. Andre, spot on. Way to end this segment. 100 spot on. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Let me get Brian in before we go. I just don't know how much faith I have in this front office that Hurts can be the guy. Howie has never drafted a true number one wide receiver. What has Howie done at safety since Dalk? Linebackers non-existent. Whole 2017 draft class is trash. I agree. If Wentz is a bust, think about it, what it took to get him. I think the odds are less likely that Hurts is a good pick. I agree with all of that, Brian. Well, I honestly do. The 2017 draft, completely trash, 100%. Never drafted a true number one wide receiver. I agree with that. What has Howie done since Dalk? Linebackers, non-existent. I agree with that, 100%. They've undervalued that position, 100%. Now, what I will say is, at safety, Malcolm Jenkins was the sign. He was the good signing. Remember, that Malcolm Jenkins move was under the radar, so I have to tell you that. Remember, that's the year everybody wanted Jarius Byrd. Everybody wanted TJ Ward. Remember that. TJ Ward goes to Cleveland. Jarius Byrd goes from Buffalo to New Orleans. So basically, we flipped with New Orleans. They signed Jarius Byrd. We signed Malcolm Jenkins. And the one thing about Jenkins was he was an okay player. But the one thing that Howie and everybody kept saying was it was because of his versatility, because he was a hybrid safety. He was able to cover not only the tight end, but not only a wide receiver, but he was actually able to come up and play in coverage and play against the run in an 8-box front. So what I will say is the Malcolm Jenkins thing was what he did for safety. And I think that has to be – that Howie has to be known for that only because those two other guys, Jarius Byrd never really played it down because he got plantar fasciitis. And TJ Ward was okay, but he was never the guy with the money that he went from Cleveland to Denver for. So I will say that much. But I think the odds are more likely, not less likely, that Hurts is a good pick. And the reason why is because of what Andre just said in the comment above. You can't teach speed. You can't teach athleticism. One thing I've always said time and time again was that, you heard this, you heard the statement in basketball, can't teach tall, right? You always heard can't teach tall. One thing I always say from a youth standpoint when I coach is I can't teach. I taught softball for many years, right? I love it. I love softball. Taught it for many years. And one thing I will say is softball, there's an IQ that goes into everybody's mindset. You can't teach softball IQ. It's the same thing. Either you have it or you don't. And I think that's the one thing with Jalen Hurts, is that his athleticism will be able to overcome what he lacks in accuracy and the quarterback position in the beginning. And then, only then, if he can build on that, I'll tell you what, he could be something special. Excuse me. Brian checked. Agree on Jenkins. I meant draft. Brian, 100%. I agree. 100%. Draft-wise, he's been trashed. Howie is not a drafter. I've said that before. I'll say it again. And Joe Douglas showed that he wasn't a drafter either. So we can say what we want. If you think about it, think about this. I hate to say it, but who had the best draft out of anybody in the last 7 or 8 years? Probably Chip Kelly, because he drafted Lane Johnson and Zach Ertz. So we could say what we want about Chip. At least he gave us 2 tremendous players, right? That's one thing Chip did give us. Nobody else was able to do that. Jim, what's up, Jim? Checking in. Don't forget, Howie's smart. Listen, my buddy Jim, always checking in. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. Always gives that little punch. And I love it. Don't forget, Howie is smarter than everybody else. Yeah, you're right. Howie thinks he outsmarts everybody. One thing that's how he does. He doesn't discriminate either. He likes sausage and pepperoni. He likes vanilla and chocolate ice cream. So, hey, man, Howie needs to stick to maybe ice cream flavors and a calculator and lay off the talent evaluation and the draft class, because he's not doing us justice, that's for sure. But listen, man, I want to check everybody. We went, again, 45 minutes. And A-Bomb, we didn't get to the Sixers A-Bomb. What we're going to do tomorrow, because today I want to still talk a little Eagles because we had the press conference going yesterday. I thought it was pretty telling what Doug was talking about. Wanted to touch on the game from last night because obviously, it was live and it was right into the fray of, John Gruden, because I love me some John Gruden. And like Brian pointed out, Andre pointed out, and Eric pointed out, and Molly agreed that, you watch what, John Gruden was able to do with the offense last night, and why can't Doug Pederson do the same kind of thing? So obviously we got to talk about that. But tomorrow we're going to do a Sixers/Philly show. Phillies are coming up. I think Matt Klentak is setting us up for failure when it comes to JT Realmuto. So I want to talk about that tomorrow. We'll talk about the Sixers coaching searches. Sixers, yep, don't be surprised. Listen, Andre checking in. Don't be surprised if you see a woman assistant coach, and Gentry is on the interview radar as well. A-Bomb, I'll touch on that tomorrow. See, I love it. Andre is taking us right in to Jigsaw's Judgment tomorrow. So Jigsaw's Judgment tomorrow, again, sometime between 9 and 10 o'clock. We'll be live. We'll be talking Sixers coaching. We'll be talking Phillies playoffs. And again, thanks everybody for joining in as always. And listen, hit us up. Follow me on Twitter at TKTill23 and follow the Heat Ratio. Tonight, lock it in, 9:15. Please lock this in. 9:15 p.m. live, all social formats. We are here, the Heat Ratio. We will have the Quad Box We're episode number 128 tonight, breaking down, again, hearing everybody's perspective on the NFL Week 2, the injuries. We're going to touch on some trivia too. So we got some Philadelphia Eagles trivia tonight. Eventually, as the sponsors come rolling in, we're going to do some contests as well. We're going to do some giveaways. I got some good things playing. We're going out. So at Heat Ratio Sports on Twitter, give us a follow. Give me a follow at Tikatil23. Follow the Heat Ratio on all your platforms, wherever you get your podcast from. Give us a rating, give us a review. And again, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and thanks for checking in. Fabulous show again, guys. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for making this show very pleasurable to do every single day. Stay safe, stay healthy, everybody. See you tomorrow.